This is a totally impromptu surprise jump on. We're going to have a free masterclass right now. And it's in celebration of a brand new course offering um, based on my book. So, The Language of Fashion Design. You can find this on Amazon. I will link it in the caption after this live stream. And I'm also going to link it to the new course offering. So, the new course offering, and don't worry, we'll get right into the chapter on symmetry. But I want to let you know that the Fashion Design Infusion online course that I've been running for about 2 years, I'm linking it up with the book. So what it's gonna offer is that right now there will be there are 4 free chapter masterclasses from my book that are on the sales page for the course. But there are 26 chapters in the book. So what we're going to do, members of the course are going to have a private course community. And in addition to having a masterclass for each chapter of the book, each masterclass is going to include a design assignment. And what you're going to get free with your course is 8-hour-long masterclasses in design sketching. Not only sketching, so don't be afraid if you don't draw yet. I've been faculty at Parsons School of Design for over 20 years, teaching sewing, draping, pattern making, as well as portfolio, model drawing, fashion illustration, concept development. So you get like the whole thing in a unique experience where we have a monthly masterclass to design around. If you don't draw yet, it's okay because the bundle that you're going to get free, the 8 hours, 8 videos that also come with the master classes based on the chapters of the book, is that you're going to have a tutorial all about creating mood boards, one all about fabrics, one about sketching with gouache, one about the design process, one about sketching on your iPad, which a lot of people are really curious about, one about model drawing. So each week, it doesn't matter what level you are at. If there's anything I know from having been a student and a teacher of these skills is that there's always a next level. You're always meeting the content at the level that you're at and stretching yourself to express yourself, right? So in as we, for example, today we're going to do a chapter on symmetry. Well, if you're in the course, or if you're not, because you can do this right now, you can take the concept and either create a mood board or create a conceptual research board, or, oh, I wonder if I can see the chat. Feel free to say hi if you pop in or ask any questions. You get to use the inspiration from the individual chapter from the language of fashion design to create your next design concept. And the great thing is, when I was asked to write this book, it was the language of fashion design, 26 chapters, as in like an alphabet. So I had to pick like the 26 essential principles of fashion design. So each one of these is what I consider to be really essential to design thinking, a design process. And if each month you're getting a different concept to work with, you can use mood boards or fabric boards or sketching or model drawing or any of the skills that you're learning in the Design Infusion bundle to work the concept. All right, so let's get down to it. Chapter 13, I randomly opened the book. I said I'm going to hop on. I love improv. I love creativity in the moment, because this is where we judge less and act more, right? Over planning for me kind of kills creativity. I like to keep it really alive so we're not overthinking. So chapter 13, I opened up to symmetry. Symmetry is a concept that can be in or not in your designs. I'm looking at myself right now. I am wearing a symmetrical shirt. Everything I'm wearing today is symmetrical. The only asymmetry I see is perhaps, just the overlap of the buttons, or the fact that there's a pocket on one side. So the overall image of what I'm wearing is symmetrical. And the only asymmetry is like subtle things, like even just how my earrings don't hang the same, but they're the same earring. Everything's symmetrical. So each chapter in the book starts with a dictionary. So you might want to get your journal or your sketchbook out, because if you're someone who loves fashion, if you're someone who loves design, who loves art, you're going to get rapid fire ideas coming to you while we talk through this, right? Did I introduce myself? Laura Volpentesta. Okay. And let me know if you want the links for the new course offering. It's open for the next 2 weeks. Symmetry. The correspondence in size, form, and arrangement of parts on opposite sides of a plane, line, or point. Regularity of form or arrangement in terms of like, reciprocal, or corresponding parts. 2. The proper or due proportion of the parts of a body or whole to one another with regard to size and form. Excellence of proportion. It's just like a dictionary definition. 3. Beauty based on or characterized by such excellence of proportion. I think it's interesting how the dictionary uses the word excellence to describe symmetry, as if there's a value, a judgment on symmetry. Very interesting indeed, because it says who, right? And from my personal opinion and experience, asymmetry in fashion is a powerful tool, because the more symmetric our clothes are, the more balanced and like perfect from left to right, the more we expect ourselves to be, and the more perfection that is asked for. And whenever I wear asymmetrical clothing or design asymmetrical clothing, I notice that the eye moves around the body. It creates movement, and it keeps the eye going like this and that, so that the human becomes the symmetrical thing and the clothing is the asymmetrical thing. There's like a contrast there. But very stable, very square, very symmetrical clothes can really ask so much perfection of the person wearing them. So I feel much more beautiful and appreciate my own beauty more when I am wearing asymmetrical clothing. So that's something to think about. So symmetry is balance. The scale tips either one way nor the other. Neither one way nor the other. Bilateral reflection, that's how I define symmetry. It's like a mirror image on both sides. Bilateral reflection of the left repeats on the right in symmetry. The center front line from the part of the hair to the center of the nose, the center of the chin, heart center, navel, between the ankles, all of this divides the body into halves. The center front line on a fashion pattern piece can be placed on folded fabric. Those of you who sew know this, right? We put our pattern piece on a folded fabric, we cut out half, and then we open it to get the full shirt in so many conventional symmetrical clothing. Collars, pockets, front and back zippers are all things that love reflections, left to right. Symmetry points to the center of a look, and this irresistible focus is soothing, grounding, and centering. And so each chapter of the book has examples of the case in point. So here, symmetry, more symmetry, very symmetrical. Right? I love this designer. Pedro Davila has these wonderful indigenous graphic concepts, but they're very, very symmetrical. All right. I'm not sure if I'll read the whole chapter or just showing some of the examples. Oh, so this design was by Prang, which is from Thailand. This book is full of fashions from all over the globe. It's really important to me. And it was one of the values I had in creating the book. When the Yale Library Review reviewed the book, they called it, what was the word? Omnivorous. Omnivorous? Is that what she called it? Because it was so global, which I loved. Okay, Prang and Sergio Davila. Each chapter also has one designer that is like a biography about that designer. So in this particular chapter, I used Sergio Davila from Peru. Let's see. San Francisco designer, native of Peru, who did a lot of work with he was also in San Francisco and Manhattan. But he specializes in knitwear, using techniques and influences from Peruvian traditional knitwear and woven patterns and the culture of Lima. Okay, just checking there. Give you some details about that designer. And then there are more examples. So in the book, sometimes we talk about symmetry in illustration, right? This has a very symmetrical use in illustration. Now, if you look at that one example, and let's say you're in the course, and on that week you want to work on model drawing, you might be exploring symmetrical layouts, figures in mirror image to each other. What a dynamic way to lay out sketches to create a very special effect. And on the other hand, you might be just picking one model who's supposed is symmetrical, or designs that are symmetrical. This is a powerfully symmetrical design. All of these designs by, what's her name again? Eva Soto Conde. Eva Soto Conde from Madrid. Very beautiful, all symmetrical. And not only symmetrical, but monochromatic looks in that chapter. In that one. And then this designer, also from Madrid, Spain, is Maria K. Fisherman. And these are also very symmetrical, including the hairstyles, the details too. And I also wanted to mention Eleonora Gendler from Brooklyn. It's an illustrator featured here. A lot of my former students, as well as myself, are featured in this chapter. The full human body and skeleton are basically symmetrical from the front and the back views. Fashion sketches often focus on these views, which are wider and have the full impact of a look, right? So often fashion sketches and photos are frontal because it gives the whole look. But what did I write here? Fashion sketches often focus on these views, which are wider, have full impact. But wouldn't it be interesting to begin the design process from the side seam instead of the front or the back? That's kind of a design prompt right there to make you think of a new approach. As a matter of fact, these are side view models. And have you ever thought of designing from the side first? What might occur to you if you did that? And the center front is the most dominant feature of a look. So often you'll see sketches only presented as full frontals, especially like flats and things. The impact of that symmetrical front view is very strong. This is a totally symmetrical look, including straight grain plaid, as well as bias details, bias pocket flaps, bias to decorate the hem of the sleeves. Those are cuffs, I think, cut on bias. And also this placket on center front is on bias, but it's still symmetrical. Even her accessories are pretty symmetrical. Earrings, turban, everything, glasses. Symmetry is very strong in that look. Anything as basic as a tailored jacket, though, perhaps designed around a symmetrical vision, is inherently asymmetric when you overlap the front. I was talking about that a minute ago. It's like a subtle asymmetric detail that usually comes in to classically symmetrical clothes. However subtle this is. And another thing students always forget to notice, and it's always like really interesting when they do, is that jeans open on center front. Not just, they actually open right on center front. Like the edge of your fly zipper on your jeans, if you go look at your jeans right now, is the center front. It goes directly into the seam that goes between your legs. So in jeans, the button and the zipper are literally off to one side. They're actually asymmetrical, but we never think of it that way. And I love to show people examples of where our thinking tricks us into seeing things differently than they really are. Because in the whole drawing process, when you start to notice how your mind plays tricks on you that make it tricky for you to draw the truth, once you build that awareness, you start to draw differently and see differently and even think differently. It helps you kind of separate from your automatic mind to a more intentional, present way of looking at things as they truly are, which is a great skill for all areas of your life. A vent in a center back of a coat may direct all of the facing to one side, making a knife pleat, or it may be a vent can be just a symmetrical slit. The difference between symmetry and asymmetry makes a big difference in an overall design. And here are some more totally symmetrical designs. Something about symmetry is ideal. It's like it strives for perfection and feels controllable in a sometimes chaotic world. Maybe that's why we love symmetry. There's something very balanced and soothing about it. But at the same time, I find that I'm so soothed by organic, uneven, unbalanced things. Interesting, right? And to kind of feel into what feels harsh to you, what feels soothing and stable to you. And that could change at different times in your life. It could change in different environments. So as you're thinking out a design concept, this is something to consider. Symmetry's prevalence in fashion is related to its processes, such as pattern making. At the beginning of this talk, we talked about how in sewing, so often we cut things out on the fold and then unfold them to get a whole piece. Like this shirt literally is cut from one piece, but it would have been cut on the fold to start, right? And also, even if it didn't have a fold in the center, we might have cut out two pieces that were identical, and one would be the left and one would be the right. That's where symmetry is kind of built into the processes of creating fashion. Or knitting a sweater, right? You're knitting back and forth, usually one side identical to the other. So the processes of creating clothing, like weaving, cutting, knitting, are inherently quite symmetrical. Even the human body is pretty symmetrical. It says that here. And so it might be said that symmetrical garments are primary. It's like the primordial form. So like a caftan, a poncho, a circle skirt. All of these ethnic roots pieces from the beginning of clothing were symmetrical. Although, so interestingly, I love to think of this like a caftan is basically like a big rectangle with armholes and a neck hole. Put it on, but if the neck hole is wide, when people wear a caftan, it falls off and becomes asymmetrical, even though it's a symmetrical garment on a symmetrical body. Just having an open neckline, I always notice this in African clothing, in the caftans that purposely have a wide cutout neckline so that it will fall to one side. And then it's not symmetrical anymore. It's another fun concept to play with in your design. And it says here, it's interesting that the existence of a definitive center in symmetry emphasizes a sense of radiating forms from that center. Right? You'll often be able to sense where that center line is and notice that things reflect on either side of it, which always points back to the core of your human body, your spine, your energetic centers, your chakras, or whatever. Interesting things to think about. This radiant aspect can have a spiritual nature that focuses on the heart of an individual, regardless of what their clothes are saying otherwise. It's funny, I wrote this book quite a few years ago, and reading it again brings some things to light. Oh, that was one of the shorter chapters. So those are our reflections on images, illustrations, and thoughts about symmetry, as well as biography of a designer who has a lot of symmetry in his own design. And the way I had just been talking about spirituality and symmetry, that sense of radiation or even a mandala kind of feeling. That's so funny, there's a mandala behind me. That's actually my daughter's thing behind me. But that there is something very spiritual about that. Or what do you call it? I can't see it and show it at the same time. Both of these have that kind of. And because these are folkloric and cultural weaves and patterns, they often are spiritual in nature. And it's interesting that comes up today because for me, you know, fashion is so much about everything. It's about our sacredness. For me, you know, that really matters. So how can symmetry play out in telling those kinds of stories? Interesting. Yeah. Oh, I didn't expect this to be such a short one. And because it was impromptu and unannounced, nobody's here right now. If you show up, if you catch this replay, please comment #replay in the comments. If you want more information about the course and you don't see it in the caption yet because I'm setting this up, let me know. But inside the Language of Fashion Design online course, there will be 26 masterclasses. Each one will come out, they'll come out, oh, I said monthly earlier, but we'll have to be bi-weekly so that we have a year, right? 26 chapters coming out bi-weekly will give you a year of fresh content every 2 weeks. Plus, you're going to have these 8 hours bundle of the Design Infusion course, which is gonna, you can dip into that any time during your time in this course. So you'll be able to access videos about fashion sketching on your iPad, about model drawing, about using gouache or watercolors, about a sketching and design process, about making mood boards on the computer or with cutout magazines. Either one of those, for example, if you take this course and you're not comfortable drawing, you can literally create research and vision boards for every one of these chapters rather than draw them. And without a doubt, when you commit to that kind of a process, you're going to be really honing your personal visions in fashion. You're going to start really noticing which models, which fabrics, which colors are you're most attracted to. And it's definitely a cumulative journey because if you start doing research monthly, weekly in a course like this and literally creating these kind of boards or sketches, you're going to find at first you're going to be like kind of taking it all in. And then as you keep moving in the course, you're going to find that you become more, it's just very natural that you start becoming more and more focused, more intentional of what it is you're looking for, more intentional about what you want to say, more intentional about what you want that you don't have skill-wise, more intentional about why you love fashion and what it is you want to say. And this is the stuff. This is the stuff I want to be there for you for. The parts where let's say you're just doing research on symmetry, and it could be that you're looking at symmetrical shapes in garments, or that you're looking at symmetrical patterns, clothing that, you know, reflects from left to right. It could take any path for you, but you could be on Pinterest, or you could be on Instagram, or you could be in magazines. You could be anywhere that you find inspiration. But because you have the structure of the course and the commitment to the program, you'll be looking for symmetry. Oh, I just found this in front of me, this card, okay? Symmetrical. Now, I wasn't really paying attention to this card right now, but it's sitting right in front of me, at a time that I'm talking about symmetry. And because I'm doing that, the next thing you know, I can grab my sketchbook and this card can become an inspiration. And it might be the color that inspires me, not just the image. You know what I'm saying? It could even be the concept that starts to inspire me. Once you start the journey and you get the ball rolling, things start to take on new meaning. And you are literally on a journey of discovery. So, if I decided suddenly I'm just going to share some process with you, which is what I also do in the video bundle that you get free with this program. It's like, this was random that I found this in front of me and thought, hey, that's symmetrical. But what could start to not be random is it could be that I decide to go with this as my colors. And then I go into my swatch bin and I find colors that reflect the feel of this card. And then I start to go on to Pinterest, or I go on to Google image search, or there's something that's been on my mind that I want to research more. And I start researching images that tie into this initial inspiration. And that's the magic, because when you create a container or a structure, a space, with the intention to create within it, and then you show up, it's like turning on the radio. You open a channel for the music to come through. Just that this music is music that doesn't exist yet. It's music that you called in. And that is the most powerful part of all this fashion teaching that I do, is that the magic of being a little girl playing dress up, or dressing your dolls, or decorating things, to being a woman in the world, interpreting your world, interpreting your experiences, and processing them through your creativity. So many of the students I meet who come to the university to study fashion design come with a much bigger dream than what school gives them. Because so often then you're processed into an industry and a dream that's kind of been given to you by an institution that's in an industry. But maybe that's not why you came to fashion. It doesn't mean you cannot produce and create things to sell. That's wonderful. But whether you do that working for someone else, or whether it's something you do for personal pleasure, or something you do for pleasure and profit, you get to decide. But the most important part is that your heart is in it, and that your magic is in it, that you are having a divine experience in your creativity. And I think a lot of schools don't talk about that very personal process, and that very beautiful process of opening the space, getting techniques and skills for inspiration to flow through, so that you are creating from a truly inspired place. Wow. Wow. That's what I want to bring you to, because that satisfaction and that realization that comes through each time you set aside that time to come down and do your assignment or your homework, you're really kind of journaling. You're really getting to know yourself, and you're getting to know that thing that comes through you and creates in a way that is completely unplannable. Improvisation, magic. That's amazing. And that's what I want to offer you, to be with you on this journey in the Language of Fashion Design online course. If you need any info about it, let me know. And I also have coaching packages if you want to do like 40-minute or 1-hour sessions that you can add on to the course, to actually just work one-on-one, getting feedback about technical things, or about your creative process, feedback on your work, A lot of times working on art and design brings up a lot of our inner critic stuff, things that are asking to be healed, negative self-talk, fear, blah, 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 blah. I've been 20 years helping students with this, and it's my joy every year more than the year before. So if this resonates, it sounds like a good fit or whatever, reach out because that's what I'm here for. And the book you can find on Amazon and around. I'll also link that in the caption. But if you don't see any links you're looking for, hit me up. Just leave me a comment, DM me, whatever, and I'll get you whatever you need. Thanks for joining me for, that was probably our quickest masterclass yet. Symmetry, chapter 13 from the language of fashion design. The sales page for the course will include 3 other free masterclasses so that you can get a feel and flavor for what each one is like before joining us for the whole year mastermind journey. Okay? Love you guys. See you soon. Bye.